guys, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to these videos. And in this one, I just kind of wanted to give some more insight on my part of this, how I've, been part of this story, and just how my point of view, if you would, or my perspective. You guys got to hear Santi's in the last video, and so just wanted to be able to speak a little bit from my perspective as well, and just kind of how we've both tied into this, because obviously it is our story and our testimony that the Lord is creating here. So I'm going to start off with Santi's prayer for this year with, Lord, take over our finances. And, I think at the beginning that would have been a very daunting prayer to hear him say, just like his prayer about having faith like Job. That one scares me still, and I'm working on that one, but it's all right. It's a very bold prayer. I feel like I got married into that one, but it's okay.
You did. You definitely got married into that one.
And, but this one was just so much different in terms of just the peace that I found, or I felt throughout it, just in regards to, let's say back to like some of these old business ventures that you've asked me to embark on in the past, whether it was roofing or your business with Ken, and just all these different things. Those at the beginning used to terrify me. I've definitely been more of a control freak in terms of my finances and liking to be in control of my finances. And so learning to come together, and trust each other with our finances was a huge thing. And then two, I've always liked to have a cushion, I've always liked to have a savings account and know that if something goes wrong, I have some type of backup plan. And so most of the time when we do these business ventures, that would mean dwindling those savings accounts and freak me out. And I'm looking at this man like, you are crazy. Like, what are you doing? Where are you leading us? So I would go into survival mode, and it would cause a lot of anxiety for me. So being able to say, going from those experiences to his prayer of, Lord, take over our finances, that one to me wasn't nearly as scary or didn't make me anxious at all. I just felt a lot of peace about it, because I knew that if Santi was asking the Lord to take over this area of our life, the Lord would do a work here. So it was me seeing God through Santi and knowing that God is working and not just Santi working. So that was kind of a big bridge gap there for me, where I was able to make that jump, and it just was a lot easier. Yeah. And not to say any of this has been easy peasy, because it hasn't been, but just my confidence there and knowing where we are placing our trust was huge. So with that being the starting point, and just kind of the differences there with the difference between different business ventures and stuff, I think it also just really was seeing how God was working through Santi in this whole process, that really just solidified for me that we were on the right track, and that he really was hearing from the Lord, and he's being obedient to what God is calling him to do. So for example, with the whole business proposition, if you know Santi at all, you know that he likes to be in control too. He always has plan A through Z ready to go. He's very resourceful. He's very smart. He knows how to figure things out. So to always have a backup plan, and he breaks things down in his head, whether he's like, okay, if this is the plan, it could go and, all these different options, but I already have it figured out. If he's going to ask this question, or if he has this question, I'm already ahead of the game. And his mind is brilliant for that, because that's not how my brain works. But, and so for him to come to me and tell me, hey, I feel like God is telling me to do this business proposition here at the Porsche dealership, but I don't have a backup plan. And if this doesn't work out, I don't know what we're going to do. To me, that spoke volumes, because then it was very much so dang, okay, that's how I knew that this is what God was calling him to do. Because I'm like, that is definitely out of character for you. That is definitely not something you would put yourself through willingly. You, like I said, likes to have a control of the situation and also kind of have an idea of what the outcome could be. So with all of those being factors that we couldn't control in this, it made it very apparent that it was whew, okay, if this is how you're feeling and you don't have backup plans and you don't know how it's going to go and there's a lot of things out of control here, I'm going to vote that this is a God thing for sure. And so that's kind of what started us on this journey and, got us going was that. And throughout the process too, just really seeing all these different characteristics of him coming out, that are just the fruits of the Spirit, and it's been awesome. We've mentioned in our I think it was our message earlier that we sent to the group about our bank accounts have never been so low, but we've also never had so much peace either. And that's definitely something that in the past you would have freaked out about, and you would have definitely taken action. You would have been like, okay, well, we've had situations like that too, where like, okay, with the roofing thing, you tried it for a set amount of time,
2
and
months or whatever.
yes, and after that you found a job within a week. So it's like, okay, we know that that's very possible for you to do right now. Like you could definitely go out and go find something if that's, if we were needing to do that. But the challenge truly has been just how deep are we willing to go in this with the Lord when it doesn't make sense, when it's hard, when people looking in could be questioning like, the heck are you guys doing? Like, you guys have a baby on the way, like you guys are not making smart decisions here. And it's like all those factors definitely factor in, and it's,
or just seeing those bills pile up. When you see those bills or you get that phone call and it's just like,
yep, hey, you haven't paid your bill yet, we're just
yeah, I know.
letting
well,
you know.
The Lord told me that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to take that, but that's my answer.
Absolutely. And so just being in this different place where, just seeing you with your peace and the joy that you've had over these past, couple months. And granted, it's been a process you've worked up to. The first month wasn't very peaceful and joyful. You were griping a lot with the Lord. And rightfully so. The Lord invites us to, express all of those emotions with him and to lament. And so seeing your process through that, and just to be where we're at now, where it's like, you're overjoyed and you talk about it all the time. Like I could just run down the streets and excitement and just talk about the freedom that I feel and just the, just the spiritual high that you're on right now, and a couple months ago, definitely wouldn't be how you would respond. So all of these things have just been confirmations for me that, we are on the right path, and also too, just all the different other confirmations of like the prayer app, we can't even tell you how many times the prayer app has been on point. Like we listen to the prayer, we just start crying, so we're like, oh my gosh, like, okay, you're speaking directly to us right now, and it's just really reaffirming again that we are on the right path. We're doing what you're asking us to do. We are being obedient.
Yeah.
And I think obviously obedience is kind of the theme of what's happening here, because we're having to not take things back into our hands and take control over things again, but we're just constantly laying them at the Lord's feet and just trusting that he has a plan, that he's not going to lead us into the desert and just leave us there. And also too, just the hope of our baby, where it's like, okay, well, God wouldn't bless us with baby right now just to take everything from us and to make this the most stressful time of our life and the most, and for us to go bankrupt like that. That can't be his story here. So having the hope of that as well. And I think something else that has really been sticking out to me would have been Grandma's comment when we were talking about the whole submission thing back in, oh my gosh, was that like last April now? It's been...
Yeah, just almost a full year now.
Yeah, that has been a while.
You had been really, you had talked to your grandma quite a bit this last year, and expressed to me just how impactful that's been for you, to be able to connect with your grandma in this way, and be able to ask her questions about marriage and submitting and kind of what that looks like, from someone's experience that has been doing it for
50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. I mean, that's a long time of marriage, and they're still together and they're still happily married, and so it's been an awesome resource for you to be able to go back and ask grandma, hey, what do I do about this? Or how do I handle this? And it's been really cool to see the answers you come back with and the things that you share with me.
Yeah. So her comment that stuck with me was, if you believe your husband is obedient to the Lord, then it should be easy to submit to him. And I feel like that has definitely been something that I've been able to lean into these past couple months, where it's like, the more that I see you leaning into the Lord, the easier it is for me to just jump on this train and be like, okay, I'm here for it, and and just seeing that it hasn't been easy for you either, like by any means. Like there's been, Santi's not a lazy person by any means. He's very action driven. He likes to be out. He likes to be active. Like he go if he could, and so
100 miles per hour
all the time. And so when there's days when, he doesn't have any details or any work, and we're just sitting here just kind of hanging out, I know that drives him insane. And it's hard for him to sit here and be like, okay, how do I not look at my computer? How do I not look at my marketing and my analytics and revamp my website again? Like, how do I just sit here? And so the idea that the Lord has been telling him, like, just be still and know that I am God, and sit in that quiet and know that is not of him. I know that is not his first choice by any means. And so just seeing these different lessons that the Lord is, bringing you through, has definitely just, showed me that it's a God thing and it's not a you thing. So these are definitely not choices you would have made on your own. And that's been huge. And I was listening to this song earlier, and I think this really just kind of solidifies what we're doing here. It's from The Reason I Sing, and it says, maybe success is measured best by nothing less than our obedience.
That's a great one.
Because if you think about it, we're not being very successful right now in terms of the world standard of like being able to pay our bills and be able to take care of things, and whatever that looks like right now. Like we're kind of tanking. But in the spiritual realm, we feel great. Like we feel like we are on the right track. We feel like we're doing what God is asking us to do, and in the end, like that's all that matters. And realizing too that God's math is not our math. Because we can sit here all day and like add up, what we need to get out of the hole or what we need for this and that, and it might seem impossible, might seem kind of crazy, but then we think of, how the Lord fed the 500 with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, and it's like that math doesn't add up. Like that's not, but He does it, and He can do it. So realizing that too, and just having hope in, okay, Lord, you can open those floodgates tomorrow if you want to, and just really leaning into that and leaning into like, okay, well, maybe there's some tests that we need to pass first. It's a test of patience, a test of, just continuing to relinquish that control to the Lord and not trying to take it back, and just all these different things where it's like, maybe we have to pass all these first, and then that's where that's where the Lord will open up those gates and just let the rain come, and if we have to dry out a little bit in the meantime, then it is what it is, or like you said earlier too, like there's times or seasons in life where the Lord has to, break you down in order to build you up, even higher. It's just the refining in the fire, and so that really stuck out to me today was those lyrics, and just really asking like, are we able to be obedient when things are hard and when they don't make sense, and I think we're definitely...
And when our math doesn't add up. That's always the hardest part. And I know for me, like, it really is hard when you look at the math and you see these things come in and you're like, okay, well, my deadline's this time.
Yeah, deadline's tomorrow. We got none of it.
Rain, please.
Okay.
Almost doing some rain dances in here. And it's definitely tough because, in those moments, every fiber in my being, all my skin and my flesh is telling me to do is get out there and earn. Mm-hmm. Get out there and earn. You can do it, man. Like, think about it. You could save yourself from this in 30 seconds. Go do it. And that's where I've constantly felt so tempted. And I know that's not of God, because I'm sitting there. I'm constantly being tempted to do for yourself. Go save yourself. Go do this. You can do that, man. You've done it before. How many times have you bet on yourself? Go save yourself again, Santi. And I do. I feel like the devil's putting me right there saying, here's the world. Mm-hmm. You can take it, buddy. Just got to grab it. You can have all of these things. Just take this. And I feel so grateful for recognizing those moments and understanding that in those moments that's exactly what's happening. It's a temptation. It's a temptation to save myself and to ruin this punchline where it's like, mm-hmm. I could go out and get another job. I could go out and pay these bills. Yesterday I had an opportunity to make some money, and I could have gone on this trip with you guys right now. Mm-hmm. I could be there right now. We'd have the money. And that's where Gio and I had really just sat in and hunkered down yesterday, and that's where Gio had to really open my eyes in those moments, because in those moments, like, that's when it's hard. That's when it's really, really hard to try to see, like, okay, well, this isn't a bad thing. Gio and I have talked about that a lot this month, where it's like some of these things that come up, like, they're not bad things. They're not like, oh, well, you can clearly see this is the devil at work.
Right.
Yeah.
they're good things, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're God things, and that's something we've been just trying to discern and be aware of. And so, like, yesterday, it's a perfect example. Yesterday's detail, guy called at 9:30 maybe, and booked it for 11:30, and it was gonna be a good chunk of change. We're like, okay, great, like we have something that'll be great, and next thing I know, he's preparing his breakfast, and we're just kind of chit chatting, and his demeanor just changed. He just looked very like distressed, and was just kind of like, oh, I don't know, I think I'm gonna throw up. And he's just like, my stomach is in knots, and I'm like, huh, for what? Like what's going on? And and the more we sat there and talked and just kind of tried to figure it out, the more he just didn't feel at peace about this detail. And I've definitely never seen him respond to a detail or to work in that regard of feeling like, I don't think I should do this, And again, not that it's a bad thing, because it's how could it be a bad thing? It's work, it's money, we need it, right? So it's like, okay, so why do you feel this way then? Why do you feel like this is a test, or why do you feel like this is something else other than provision, and really just having to kind of dig into that and figure out what that was.
Yeah, well, and it was really what I kind of realized through that moment was, and it was only because of Gio that I realized this. But talking with Gio and talking through this moment, I felt like there was this deep pit in my stomach, and this feeling that I've had so many other times in my life where, like, I can recognize now it's the Holy Spirit. I didn't know it maybe when I was in my early 20s, but I can recognize it with clarity now, knowing like that's the Holy Spirit talking to me. That's the Holy Spirit in me, trying to lead and guide me to doing the things that God wants me to do that day. He's got a will every day for us, and it's constantly dying to your own will and submitting to His. And so for me in that moment, I kind of realized like the question that was running around in my head was, do I have to give up God to go and do this work today? And that's all I kept feeling yesterday was, if I go do this job, I feel like I have to give up God for today. Like all of a sudden it's like, well, snap me out of church camp mode, snap me out of God mode or whatever. I'm back to reality. And that's what it felt. And that's what it felt like. Was like I have to trade up. If I want to get back to real life, I got to trade up real quick, because it was great being in God, and it was great having the spiritual revival, I guess you could call it, the last month and a half. But it's time to come back to reality, Santi. It's time to come back and be back in the world. And I really did feel like it was a trade-off. Like, okay, well, you need to say bye to God for now, put him back on the shelf, get back to work, get back to reality. And that just left this deep pit in my stomach of just like, no, I haven't spent the last month and a half in deep time with Christ just so I can, in a moment's notice, throw it all away and go back to the world and try to find success in that way. And it was in that moment that Gio had said to me, which sounded so profound yesterday to me, because it did. I was in a lot of distress, thinking like, what am I supposed to do? I either got to tell this guy I'm not going to do this detail at all, or I got to go do this detail and
go against what I'm feeling.
Yeah, go against everything I'm thinking and believing right now. And then Gio made it really simple when she's like, or you could just do it for free.
Which, again, also doesn't necessarily make sense with our situation of like, could we use the money? Yeah, we could. So doing something for free doesn't necessarily make too much sense either. But, when he kept saying like, I just feel like this is a test. It's a test, and I just don't want to mess it up. Hearing it put like that, it just made it, just made me question like, okay, well, if that's how you're feeling, like, then if losing a test is not worth, $200, it's not worth whatever even if it was $500 that you were going to get from that detail, like, if you felt like God was testing you, like it wasn't worth it, like we could easily walk away from that, and kind of realizing like, okay, maybe this isn't the rain, that we've been waiting for. Maybe this is just a drop in the bucket, and we need to be willing to walk away from that if that's what God's asking us to do, even in moments of feeling desperate, and being like, okay, well, some gas money would be great. Or, just little something.
Or some money to go to a movie.
Oh, the movies. I haven't been there in a minute. But just kind of looking at it from that aspect of like, okay, are we willing to jeopardize, everything that we've worked towards these past couple months for $200?
Yeah.
No, definitely not. But at the same time, with the, just doing it for free, it just was like, okay, well, you're still able to bless somebody. You're still able to go out and provide a service, and, not feel like you're failing this test because you're not receiving anything for it. But you're able just to go, bless somebody. And, in the moment after I, had mentioned that, he just was like, huh. And it was kind of like you could just see this, all of the stress just fall off of him. And he was like, that knot in my stomach is gone now, and I'm no longer shaking. I think that was it. I think that's the answer, and I think that's what we need to go with. And it's like, okay, fantastic, great. And again, does it necessarily make sense from a worldly standpoint? Definitely not.
Not at all.
Just go do it for free. Go trade your time and your chemicals and your materials for free.
Yeah, if only,
But I mean, you came back afterwards and said you felt really good about it and felt, victorious for the day in terms of, okay, we feel like, if that was a test, we passed it.
Mm-hmm.
And just leaning into those things and just trying to figure that out for each other and figure out, how to lean on each other in these ways and leaning into each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, and I would say that's kind of been the other big lesson we've been really leaning into it too, is realizing that the Lord's the most powerful in us, especially when we're leaning into our weaknesses. It's not our strengths that the Lord uses, it's our weaknesses that the Lord uses. He speaks through the weaknesses, He speaks through those challenges. And it really just comes down to submitting your will to Him and allowing Him to do that work. Even when it makes no sense at all, even when to the world's standard, it's just like, this, you guys are really screwing this up. And, there's plenty of times where I've thought the same thing. And especially when it comes to, I've told Gio since we've been married and since we've gotten together and dating, I'll never be poor. And, I afford myself my lifestyle. I've always done that. I've always been able to do that. Everything I've wanted in my life, I've been able to afford myself. I've worked hard for it. I've figured out a way to get it. And, especially since we've been married, it's just the same thing. It's like, well, I'll figure out a way. If I got to work harder, if I got to switch up jobs, if I got to work 2 jobs, if I got to, do 3 jobs and this side hustle, I'll figure it out. And that tends to be how I've always kind of moved, especially when it comes to work, is there's always a way. It's not the question of how do I afford this? It's I'll figure out. I'm going to figure out. I will afford myself that thing, and then I figure it out. And so being on the opposite side of this, where it's every move that we make, it seems to do the opposite of what the world would say in so many ways. When you look at your finances and we look at our bank accounts now, it's like, okay, I haven't felt like this since I was 19, 20, 21, and I'm living off ramen noodles and can barely afford that. To get to the place that we've gotten to together, we're definitely making enough money to afford all of the things that we needed and wanted and desired in our life at that time. And so to be on the opposite side now, where it's like, I feel like we're worse than the square one we started in. The real truth to all of that really is the fact that both of us are so at peace. There's so much joy in this house. There's so much peace. I feel closer to Gio than I've ever felt before. And there's so much confidence in this house right now where it's just like, I don't know. Our math definitely does not add up. We look on paper, we can do the numbers 1,000 times. It's definitely not adding up. But there's so much peace in the idea that, you know what? I'll lose it all tomorrow if that meant accomplishing God's mission here. There's nothing in this world that Gio and I love that so much that we're unwilling to give up. And that to me is a huge blessing, to know that I have a partner that allows me to take us to where we're at. Because that's not an easy thing at all. And I tell her all the time how amazing and how wonderful I think that is, that she doesn't sow doubt in my head about Well, are you sure that's what God's telling you? He's telling you to go broke right now? Are you sure that's what God's telling you? He's telling you to spend your last dime on this? Are you sure that's what God... and she doesn't sit there and question me in that way. And I've told her how much of a blessing that's been to be able to make these decisions and to be able to move in faith without feeling like my partner is constantly combating me on, are you sure? Are you sure? Well, I was sure, and then now you made me a little unsure. So to be able to have a partner that's also in this with me, that's submitting in this way, that's allowing God to work and allowing God to just speak and move, and you know what? She really does. She truly makes me feel like we are in this boat together. We sink in this boat together. We win in this boat together. Whatever happens, though, we are in it together. And that's it. And so I think that's what's given us so much power over this situation and so much power over, all these ups and downs where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen next week. But I'm excited for every single day that comes. And I truly excited. And I tell Gio that all the time. Like, I just want to run down the street screaming, I'm broke!
Oh my God.
And I love it!
Oh my goodness.
But I've never felt so much joy and freedom in that. And that's the truth. Where it's like, I don't know. I have no idea what's happening. But I know it's really, really good. And I'm really excited to see what God continues to do in our life over the next few weeks, the next few months. And I'm so glad that we have an opportunity to share it with you guys and bring you guys into this journey. That's been the biggest thing for us, especially this week, is just like, really truly being transparent with all our friends and all our family. And I was just talking to Gio this morning about how I don't want to take away from God's blessings. How can I allow God to bless me if I'm not willing to share the true story that he's doing in our lives?
Absolutely.
And
I think it's also been listening to, the Bible stories that we've been listening to through the prayer app, through King David and King Solomon and the prophet Elijah. Why are those stories so impactful? It's because we get to hear the valleys and the mountaintops. We don't just hear just the mountaintops where it's like, okay, cool. David came in and slayed the Goliath, and after that, all we heard was all these good things, and we didn't hear about any of the struggles, because then that doesn't really give God all the glory. Because it's like, oh, well, it sounds like he just had it easy peasy after that and didn't really have to struggle through anything, right? It's the moments where they did sin and they did fall short that we are able to relate to them, and then it's like,
well, they doubted.
Yes,
they doubted. You look at Elijah, and like that's the story that we keep coming back to is like Elijah. Elijah is one of the only prophets that was taken up to heaven and didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
He got taken up in a chariot of fire up to heaven. Like, that's an amazing story and super, super awesome.
Yeah.
But to me, it spoke volumes because if you just look at a couple chapters ahead and you look into Elijah's story, you know that at one point in Elijah's story, he was begging God for death. Mm-hmm. He had just shown the world, and I just think about that.
Test of the gods. It was
the test of the gods. Him. Yeah. It was the God of David versus the God of Baal. Mm-hmm. this idol. Yeah. And he's sitting here mocking all these 500 different prophets of Baal as they're crying out to Baal, come and burn down this offering to you. Take it. They're slitting their throats and cutting their wrists like. Take it! Come on, hear us! And Elijah's just sitting there like, oh, yell louder. Cut your wrist some more. Hey, why don't you kill that guy too?
Oh my goodness.
And then even more to even rub it in their faces even more. What does Elijah do? He takes and he dumps buckets and buckets and buckets of water all over this offering. He builds a trough around the offering and he fills it with water. And it's just one of those things where it's like, if you know anything about fires, it's really hard to start a fire when everything's soaked. Mm-hmm. Soaking in water. Good luck. And then what does he do? Elijah goes up on this world stage. That's all I see. I see this world stage where it's like, it's him. It's one prophet versus the many. Yeah. One guy that's got the faith to stand up and do this. And the rest of the people, the rest of the kingdom is all looking at you like, well, if I got to make any bets, I'm making it on Baal over here because he's got 500 guys over here and there's only one of you. So what's the chances that you're going to come out on top? Doubt it. And to see him go and he does it, he prays, and the Lord sends down this fire that burns up everything and scorches even the rocks that are on that offering. And to see that, and you're just like, wow, man, Elijah must really just be, he's the epitome, right? He's the guy to strive to be like. If you want to be like anyone, you want to be like Elijah, man. Like he knows it. He's in with God. He's like God's right-hand man. And then to see in the next chapter, where does Elijah go?
He's fleeing to the desert to hide from Jezebel.
Yeah, he's fleeing to the woods. He's hiding out in the woods. He's like, I'm hiding, guys. I'm going into hiding now. The Jezebel, the evil king's wife, is after me. She's trying to kill me. Lord, what the heck did you do? You let me do this awesome thing, and now I'm going to die because of it. She went out and killed all the other prophets. I'm the only one left. I'm scared. I'm out of here, Lord. I don't know why you did this to me. What curse did you bring upon me? And, to me, that spoke volumes, thinking like, man, okay, God just used this guy to go perform this huge miracle, man, like huge, in front of all of the nation.
Yeah.
And within a day, this guy is denouncing Christ in the sense of, God, what did you do? Why'd you bring me here? Why'd you use me to do this? Now I'm going to die. Kill me now.
Right.
He begs. It says he begs the Lord for death. Give me death, please. And, so in that moment, the Lord lifts him up again, changes his perspective, gives him a new mission, and sets him back on a path. And, it talks about how Elijah, fulfills that path, goes back out and does God's work.
Yeah.
And so it's in those moments that it really spoke volumes to me of just like,
if we didn't hear about that struggle in the desert, then the story wouldn't have been as impactful or as inspiring. And so
not nearly.
I think that's kind of what has brought us to this conviction of sharing our struggles with you guys too, and also just having to lay down our pride and our ego there of just like, well, do we want to admit all these things? Like, do we want to open up the floor for all these questions of like, well, what are you guys doing? Like, what do you mean? And it's like, not really, but then it's like, okay, but then we are not allowing God to have the full glory here, because then when we do come back, and we are very confident, and we know that we're going to come back with an awesome story about this and just how God delivers us from this. It's not going to be as impactful if you didn't know about how dry this season was for us and how much of a struggle it was. It's just going to be oh, well, that's cool. It sounds like you guys, went through a cool journey. It's like, no, it was it was much deeper than that. And so that was the point of us, just really wanting to be more transparent and even making these videos and just letting you guys in fully on, in this journey. And I've definitely seen the impact of that, through Masters, through different people there, or even through Pastor Lloyd, where he'll talk about different struggles and, just different things, and being able to pray with them through that and then see the victory and then just be like, oh my gosh, I just saw God work in this man's life in just such a crazy way, But again, if he didn't let us in on the struggles and the valley, then it wouldn't have been nearly as impactful. So that's just the point of our videos here, and just wanting to let you guys in there. And so that way, when this does come full circle, it's just God gets all the glory in it. And so, so I think that's it for now. And until our next video.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We love you guys.
Yes.
And, feel free to reach out or ask us anything. It's definitely something we've been really challenging ourselves on is full transparency. Yeah. And allowing you guys to know, those struggles, because that's definitely a struggle of mine is the pride side of stuff, of feeling like, if I share these things with you guys, that means I'm inadequate, that means I'm weak, that means I'm not doing my job correctly. And that's definitely how it makes me feel most of the time. But knowing that there's a bigger purpose to all of this, this isn't about me, and this isn't about Gio, it's about the story God's trying to tell through us. And just learning to submit in that way and allow the Lord to do the speaking for us here. We love you guys so much, and thank you if you made it all the way to the end. We know Gio loves to talk. Such a talker.
Such a comedian. Oh my gosh.
All right, we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, guys.